You're not good enough for my son. His mother ruined their wedding, so the bride married another billionaire. You are not good enough for my son. The cathedral froze. The organ cut mid-note, guests gasped, and phones shot into the air as Angela Sinclair's voice thundered through the grand hall. Dressed in a gleaming emerald gown, her diamonds catching every light, Angela rose to her feet with the authority of a queen delivering judgment. Her eyes, sharp and merciless, locked on the bride. All eyes turned to Renee Carter. She stood halfway down the aisle, radiant in her ivory lace gown, bouquet trembling in her hands. Her golden brown skin glowed under the chandeliers, and her almond-shaped hazel eyes widened with disbelief. For a heartbeat, the world stopped. Flashback. Moments earlier, the cathedral doors had opened to reveal Renee, breathtaking as the bride. Her waist-length black curls, streaked with honey highlights, framed her flawless face. Each step forward was graceful, steady, though her hands clutched the roses tightly, her nerves hidden behind a soft smile. At the altar, Roman Sinclair, tall and commanding in his ivory tuxedo, watched her with awe. His espresso-brown eyes softened, his strong jaw unclenching as his bride drew closer. For a moment, nothing else mattered. The whispers about Renee being a nobody, the pressure from his family. He only saw her. Guests leaned forward in admiration, whispering about how stunning she looked. Socialites in sequined gowns snapped photos, flooding Instagram with captions like, "The Sinclair wedding begins." Then Angela stood, back to the present. "You will not marry her, Roman," Angela spat, her voice slicing through the air. "This girl will ruin everything this family has built. She's beneath us. She is nothing." The congregation erupted in shocked murmurs. Some gasped in sympathy for Renee, while others smirked with cruel fascination. Phones flashed as the humiliation spread online. Number sign Sinclair scandal trended before Renee even reached the altar. Renee's heart pounded. She felt the heat of 100 stares, the whispers burning into her skin. Her sister, Imani Carter, jumped from the front pew, her golden brown face fierce with rage. "How dare you!" Imani shouted. "My sister is worth more than every diamond you flaunt." Gasps rippled. A society wife whispered, "Did the bridesmaid just yell at Angela Sinclair?" Another muttered, "This is better than television." Roman stepped forward, his fists clenched. "Mother, stop this. You're humiliating her." Angela's glare snapped to her son. "I am saving you. Love will not protect the Sinclair empire. That woman," she stabbed the air toward Renee, "will drag you into ruin." Roman's face twisted, torn between fury and fear. He looked at Renee, his lips parting as if to say more. But no words came, his silence cut deeper than his mother's venom. Renee's vision blurred, shame, anger, and heartbreak surged all at once. For a moment she wavered, her knees weakening, then strength returned. With deliberate calm, she lifted her bouquet. Slowly, she removed her veil, her hands steady despite the tremor in her chest. The delicate lace slipped away, revealing her face in full, not as a humiliated bride, but as a woman reclaiming her dignity. Gasps turned to silence. Even Angela faltered for a breath. Renee met Roman's eyes one last time. His espresso gaze pleaded, but his hesitation told her everything she needed to know. Without a word, Renee turned. Her gown flowed behind her like a broken dream as she strode back down the aisle. Every camera followed, every guest watched in stunned silence as she pushed open the cathedral doors. Sunlight poured in, wrapping her in gold as she vanished into the world outside, alone but unbroken. Inside, chaos erupted. Guests whispered furiously, tabloids drafted headlines, and Angela sat down with a cold, satisfied smile. Roman stood frozen at the altar, his heart splintering, watching the only woman he truly loved walk away. The wedding of the year had just become the scandal of the century. The morning after the ruined wedding, the world woke to headlines that spread faster than wildfire. Billionaire heir's mother shuts down wedding. Society bride humiliated at the altar. Angela Sinclair, saving her son or destroying his future. Front pages splashed Renee's face in close-up, veil falling from her head, hazel eyes wide with pain. Social media replayed the moment in endless loops. Angela shouting, Renee turning away, Roman frozen at the altar. The scandal had gone global before the sun had set. Inside the Carter household, Renee sat silently at the dining table, still in her silk nightrobe. Her curls framed her face in messy waves, and her untouched tea sat cold before her. Every time she closed her eyes, she heard Angela's voice again. You're not good enough. Her phone buzzed endlessly. Reporters, gossip bloggers, even old classmates eager to mock her misfortune. Imani burst into the room, tossing down a stack of tabloids. Look at this nonsense, she snapped, her voice shaking with fury. They're calling you a gold digger, a social climber, a fraud, and that witch Angela is painted like some kind of hero. Renee flinched, her eyes darting to the headlines. She tried to stay composed, but her lips trembled. Let them talk, she whispered, though her voice cracked with suppressed hurt. Imani slammed her hand against the table. No, they don't get to drag you like this. You walked out with your dignity intact. You didn't crawl. You left like a queen. Her eyes burned with fire. And I'll fight anyone who says otherwise. Renee managed a faint, grateful smile at her sister, but deep inside, the humiliation clawed at her. Across town, in the towering Sinclair estate, Roman confronted his mother. His tuxedo from yesterday was still wrinkled, his eyes bloodshot from a sleepless night. You destroyed me, he said, voice low and dangerous. You destroyed her. Angela, sitting elegantly with her morning coffee, didn't flinch. I saved you, she replied coolly. That girl would have ruined you, Roman. You are Sinclair blood. You marry for strategy, for legacy, not for love. Roman's fists tightened. I love her. Angela's lips curled into a cold smile. Love fades, power lasts, and mark my words, you'll thank me one day. Roman turned away, disgusted, but his silence once again betrayed his weakness. Meanwhile, in a sleek penthouse overlooking the city, another man watched the scandal unfold on his tablet. Malik Harrington. The billionaire rival smirked as he watched the viral clip of Renee walking out in sunlight, veil in hand. Her poise, her quiet dignity even in humiliation, it captivated him. She has fire, he murmured. His walnut-brown skin gleamed in the morning light, and his dark eyes sharpened with intrigue. Angela may think she crushed her, but all I see is a woman who refuses to bow. He set the tablet aside, already planning his next move. Back in the Carter home, Renee finally broke her silence. Her hazel eyes, once brimming with tears, hardened into steel. Imani, I will never forgive them. Not Angela, not Roman, not any of them. Imani reached across the table, squeezing her hand. Then we make them regret it. For the first time since the wedding, Renee sat taller, her chin lifting with quiet resolve. The world thought her destroyed, but this was only the beginning. Dinner with me. Tonight. The words startled Renee. She looked up from her phone to see Malik Harrington, the rival billionaire, standing in the Carter living room doorway as if he belonged there. His 6'3" frame filled the space, his walnut-brown skin glowing under the afternoon sun, his sharp-tailored suit pressed to perfection. Imani nearly choked on her water. How the hell did you even get in here? Malik's lips curved into a knowing smile. I have a way of getting into places people say I can't. His eyes shifted back to Renee. And I won't take no for an answer. Renee blinked, still processing. Why would a man like you? She gestured at his cufflinks, his polished watch, the effortless confidence in his posture. Care about me right now? I'm the punchline of every headline in America. Malik stepped closer, lowering his voice. That's exactly why. The world is laughing at you. Angela thinks she destroyed you. Roman froze and let her. But me? His espresso dark eyes locked on hers. I saw you walk out of that cathedral like a queen. And queens don't bow, they rise. I like that. Imani narrowed her eyes suspiciously, but Renee's chest tightened at his words. That evening, Renee found herself at one of Manhattan's most exclusive rooftop restaurants, the city lights glittering like stars beneath them. Malik had arranged everything, an entire section reserved, champagne on ice, violinists playing softly in the background. The air smelled of jasmine and expensive perfume, the very definition of power and extravagance. You didn't have to do all this, Renee murmured, her hazel eyes scanning the lavish table. Malik leaned back in his chair, his gaze never leaving her. I did, because you deserve to be seen like this, not as a scandal, not as a victim, but as the woman every man wishes he could stand beside. Her cheeks warmed. She looked away, focusing on the sparkling skyline. You don't even know me. Oh, but I do. Malik's voice dropped, smooth and deliberate. I've watched you for years, at charity events, at Roman's side. Quiet, graceful, underestimated. You remind me of myself once. They all said I wasn't good enough either. I built an empire to prove them wrong. Now I see the same fire in you. Across the table, Renee's phone buzzed again. Roman, for the third time that night. She ignored it, flipping the screen down. Malik smirked knowingly. Still chasing you, I see. Her lips tightened. He had his chance, and when it mattered, he chose silence. Malik leaned forward, his tone suddenly sharpened. Then let me give you a choice, Renee. Her hazel eyes lifted slowly to his. Marry me. The words dropped like a bomb. Renee's breath caught, her fingers clenching the stem of her glass. What? Not pity, Malik said firmly, reading the storm in her face. Not charity, power. You deserve more than to be some boy's weakness. You deserve to be a Harrington, to stand taller than the Sinclairs ever dreamed. Let me elevate you. Her heart hammered in her chest. Images flashed in her mind. Angela's cruel words, Roman's helpless eyes, her own veil slipping from her hands as she walked away. And now, here was Malik, handing her back control with a single, outrageous proposition. I can't just, she stammered, shaking her head. Malik didn't flinch. You can, and you should. Think of it, Renee. No more whispers of not good enough. No more humiliation. The Sinclairs will choke on regret every time they see you. For a moment, silence stretched between them, only the violins filling the night air. Renee's lips parted, her voice barely above a whisper. I need time. Malik leaned back, satisfied. Take it. But know this. Power like this doesn't wait forever. He raised his glass in a toast, his eyes glinting like the city lights, and though Renee lifted her glass in return, her mind swirled with fear, temptation, and a dangerous new possibility. The pounding on the Carter apartment door rattled the walls. Renee, open up! Roman's deep voice thundered from the hallway. Renee froze in the kitchen, her hazel eyes flicking toward the door, heart hammering. She hadn't seen him since she walked out of the cathedral. She hadn't answered his countless calls or messages, and now he was here, uninvited. Imani crossed her arms, her protective stance sharp. Don't even think about it, sis. He doesn't deserve... But Renee was already walking toward the door, her silk robe brushing against her golden brown skin. With trembling fingers, she turned the lock. Roman Sinclair stood in the doorway, disheveled but still breathtakingly powerful. His espresso brown skin glistened with sweat, his black tuxedo jacket wrinkled, shirt collar undone as if he had rushed here without care for appearances. His jawline was taut with tension, his dark eyes burning with regret. "Renee," he said hoarsely, "please, just let me explain." Imani hissed, "You had your chance to explain in front of the whole world. Where were your words then?" Roman ignored her, his gaze fixed solely on Renee. "I froze. I panicked. But I swear to you, I love you. You are the only woman I want." Renee's lips trembled. "You let your mother destroy me. You stood there, Roman. Do you know what it felt like? To be treated like dirt in front of hundreds of people, and thousands more online?" Roman flinched, his broad shoulders sinking. "I was weak, and I will regret it for the rest of my life. But don't let her win, Renee. Don't let her keep us apart." Her hands curled into fists at her side. She wanted to believe him, wanted to melt into his arms, but the memory of his silence burned too deeply. "You say you love me, but when it mattered, you chose her," she whispered. "How can I ever trust you again?" Imani stepped in sharply, her voice dripping with venom. "You can't, and you won't. Roman, leave before I call security." Roman's jaw clenched, his eyes lingered on Renee, pleading, desperate, before he finally stepped back. "I'll fight for you, no matter what it takes." Then he turned and walked down the hall, leaving only the echo of his footsteps. Later that evening, the doorbell rang again. This time, it wasn't Roman. It was a delivery. 2 uniformed men wheeled in a gleaming white grand piano, followed by a cascade of boxes, Cartier jewelry, Chanel gowns, Prada heels. Behind them came a florist team carrying an avalanche of red roses that spilled across the entire living room. "What the—" Imani gasped, jaw dropping. Renee stood stunned, her hazel eyes wide. She reached for the golden card attached to the roses. "To the woman who walked away with her crown intact. Malik Harrington." Imani snorted. "This man doesn't play fair, does he?" Renee touched the roses lightly, their fragrance overwhelming. Malik's words echoed in her mind. "Let me elevate you." She turned sharply, almost angry with herself. "I don't need gifts. I don't need him to buy me." But her voice betrayed the tremor of temptation. Across the city, Angela Sinclair sat in her marble kitchen with a glass of wine, smirking as her phone buzzed with fresh gossip. "She's already parading herself with Malik?" Angela sneered to a friend on speaker. "Of course, that girl was always a climber. 2 billionaires in 1 month. What a record." Her words spread quickly through social circles. By morning, blogs ran new headlines, from rejected bride to rival's prize, Renee Carter, courted by Malik Harrington. The humiliation deepened, but so did the intrigue. That night, Renee sat on the balcony, staring out at the city skyline. The roses glowed red behind her, Roman's words haunted her, and Angela's poison threatened to drown her. Imani slid beside her, resting a hand on her sister's arm. "You're caught in the middle of 2 billionaires, sis. One who lets you down, and one who wants to use you to win against him. But let me tell you this, you don't need either to prove your worth." Renee's eyes shimmered with unshed tears. "Then why does my heart still ache when I think of Roman?" Imani squeezed her hand tightly. "Because love is messy, but don't confuse love with weakness. If he can't fight for you, he doesn't deserve you." Inside her penthouse across town, Malik Harrington lifted a glass of scotch, his lips curving as his assistant confirmed the delivery had been made. "Good," he murmured. "Let Roman see what it feels like to lose." His gaze hardened. To him, Renee was more than a woman. She was a symbol, the perfect key to crush his rival. But deep inside, even Malik could not deny he was intrigued by the fire in her eyes. On the balcony, Renee finally whispered to herself, the night wind carrying her words. I will never let Angela break me again, and I will never crawl back to anyone who stood silent. Her voice steadied, stronger than before, but deep down, her heart knew the war between love, power, and pride had only just begun. Find me everything! Angela Sinclair snapped, her diamond bracelet clinking against the crystal glass she set down. The private investigator sitting across her, grey suit, sharp eyes, nodded quickly. Everything about Renee Carter, her family, her finances, her past relationships. Nothing stays hidden. Angela leaned back in her ivory leather armchair, her espresso brown skin glowing in the golden light of the chandelier. That girl humiliated me. She thinks she can walk away from my son, and then, what? Entertain Malik Harrington like she's worthy of my world? Her lips curved into a cold smile. Not for long. The investigator pocketed his recorder. I'll have a full report by the end of the week. Angela's eyes glittered with malice. By then, Renee Carter's dignity will be in ashes. Renee sat cross-legged on her couch, scrolling her phone nervously. Social media hadn't slowed since the scandal. Memes, hashtags, endless videos. Now, new whispers were surfacing. Angela had set dogs on her trail. Her heart clenched. She didn't have skeletons in her closet, but her family wasn't wealthy, and the Carters' financial struggles were no secret. She imagined Angela spinning even the smallest flaw into poison. A knock on the door pulled her from her thoughts. It was Lennox Sinclair. Roman's cousin stepped inside, tall and broad in a navy suit, his deep chocolate skin glowing against the lamplight. His eyes, usually steady, carried urgency tonight. Renee, he said quietly, you need to know. Angela's moving fast. She's hired investigators. She's digging for anything she can use to bury you. Imani burst from the kitchen, fists clenched. That woman is obsessed. Lennox's gaze softened as it landed on Renee. Be careful. Malik might promise you the world, but Angela won't stop until you're ruined. Renee swallowed hard. So what am I supposed to do, Lennox? Hide. Run. His jaw tightened. Number stand tall. Don't give her the satisfaction, but choose wisely, Renee. Aligning yourself with Malik will only paint a bigger target on your back. Renee looked away, her chest tightening. Then maybe that's exactly what I need, to be untouchable. 2 nights later, Renee descended the marble staircase of the Harrington Plaza ballroom. The chandelier lights glistened against her emerald silk gown, hugging her slender frame. Her hazel eyes glowed beneath smoky lashes, and her curls cascaded down her back in honeyed waves. Every camera turned. Every guest whispered. The scandalized bride had returned, not defeated, but reborn at the arm of Malik Harrington. Malik stood beside her, sharp in a tailored black suit, his walnut-brown skin flawless under the chandeliers. He placed a firm hand against the small of her back, guiding her forward. Ladies and gentlemen, he announced, his deep voice carrying over the crowd. Meet the future Mrs. Harrington. The ballroom erupted in gasps. Renee stiffened, her hazel eyes darting to Malik. He hadn't warned her he would say that. She forced a smile, standing tall as flashing cameras blinded her. At the edge of the crowd, another figure stood frozen. Roman. He wore a dark tuxedo, his espresso eyes locked on Renee. His jaw flexed as Malik leaned closer, brushing his lips against Renee's cheek. The sight was fire in his veins. Roman stormed through the crowd, stopping just short of Malik and Renee. His voice was low but laced with venom. Enjoy your little show, Harrington, using her as your pawn in your war against me? Malik's smirk widened. You think this is about you? Not everything revolves around Roman Sinclair. I see a woman who deserves better, and I deliver. Roman turned his gaze on Renee, his voice breaking. Renee, you don't belong in this circus. You know Malik doesn't care about you. He just wants to hurt me. Renee's chest tightened. For a moment she wanted to believe him, but then she remembered his silence at the altar, his mother's venom, her own walk of shame. I belong wherever I choose, she said firmly, lifting her chin, and neither of you get to decide that for me. The crowd gasped again, whispers spreading like wildfire. She defied them both. Roman's hands curled into fists. I won't stop fighting for you. Malik chuckled darkly. Then prepare to lose, cousin. Later that night, Renee slipped away to the quiet of the Harrington balcony. The city glittered beneath her, but her mind churned. She had been paraded like a trophy, forced into Malik's declaration without warning, and yet, the power she felt walking into that ballroom was intoxicating. Imani found her there, heels clicking against the marble. So this is your plan? Let Malik use you to stick it to Roman, because that's what this is, Renee, a pissing contest between billionaires. Renee's hazel eyes shimmered. Maybe, but at least Malik stood by me. At least he didn't let his mother humiliate me. Imani stepped closer, her voice softening. Sis, I love you, but don't confuse revenge with love. Don't let their war swallow you whole. You deserve happiness, not a battlefield. Renee pressed her hands against the railing, the night wind teasing her curls. Maybe happiness isn't for me anymore. Maybe survival is enough. Across the city, Angela read the gala coverage with a wicked grin. The headlines sang to her. Rejected Bride Strikes Back. Renee Carter debuts as Malik Harrington's new love. Exactly as she wanted. Renee's name tangled in scandal, her reputation questionable, but Angela wasn't satisfied yet. She swirled her wine glass, whispering to herself, Let her dance with wolves. I'll be waiting when they devour her. Renee returned to her apartment past midnight, the emerald gown clinging to her as she collapsed onto her bed. The weight of Malik's bold declaration pressed heavy on her chest. Her phone buzzed again. Another message from Roman. Please, meet me, just once. I need you. Renee shut her eyes, torn between fire and ash, between the man who let her down and the one pulling her deeper into his dangerous orbit. And for the first time, she understood the truth. She wasn't just caught in a scandal. She was the center of a war. Gentlemen, this company cannot afford weakness at the top. Angela Sinclair's voice rang through the mahogany-paneled boardroom like a judge delivering a verdict. Her diamond brooch glittered against her emerald silk blazer as she stood at the head of the long table. Espresso brown eyes sharp, lips curled into a smile that masked her cruelty. Around her, the Sinclair Corporation board members shifted uncomfortably in their tailored suits. Several exchanged uneasy glances, but nodded nonetheless. Angela had been whispering in their ears for weeks, ever since the wedding scandal. One director finally spoke up. Roman is still the majority heir. Public embarrassment aside, he remains the rightful CEO in waiting. Angela's jaw tightened, but her tone remained silky. Yes, but perception is power. The world now sees him as a man controlled by a scandalous woman. Do you want Sinclair stock to plummet because my son cannot separate love from legacy? A few murmurs of agreement rippled across the table. Angela pressed harder. We need to consider shifting support. The board cannot afford distractions. She sat down gracefully, but her message had already been delivered. Roman Sinclair was vulnerable. Elsewhere, in Malik Harrington's sleek office overlooking the skyline, Renee sat opposite him, her hazel eyes wary but curious. He leaned back in his chair, walnut-brown skin gleaming under the ceiling lights, his voice smooth as silk. "Renee, you've already proven you can command a room. That gala, every headline was yours. Angela wanted to bury you, but you came out the star." Renee's lips pressed into a thin line. "A star, or a scandal?" Malik smirked. "Scandal and power are cousins. The difference is who controls the story, and I'm offering you control." He slid a sleek folder across the glass desk. Inside, contracts bore her name, an offer to become chairwoman of the Harrington Foundation for Women and Power. "You'll lead initiatives, manage events, sit at tables Angela Sinclair will never be invited to," Malik said, his voice low and deliberate. "You'll no longer be Roman's ex-fiancée. You'll be Renee Carter, a woman with her own empire." Her chest tightened as she skimmed the folder. It was intoxicating. Money, prestige, influence, all hers. But a shadow of doubt lingered. Was this Malik empowering her, or weaponizing her against Roman? The answer came quickly. Later that night, as Renee left Malik's office, she found Roman waiting in the corridor, his broad shoulders tense beneath his tailored charcoal suit. "Malik's using you," Roman said flatly, his espresso dark eyes burning into hers. Before she could respond, Malik emerged behind her, smirking. "Roman, what a surprise. Come to beg for forgiveness again?" Roman's jaw flexed. "Stay away from her. This isn't about you and me anymore." "Oh, but it is," Malik said smoothly, stepping closer until the two men stood chest to chest. "You let her walk out humiliated. You let your mother destroy her. I'm giving her the stage she deserves." Renee's pulse quickened, caught between their searing glares. Roman turned to her, his voice cracking with sincerity. "Renee, please, can't you see? He doesn't care about you. You're just his weapon against me." Her breath caught, torn by the desperation in his voice. Before she could answer, Malik slipped an arm around her waist, drawing her subtly to his side. "She's no one's weapon. She's my partner." Roman's fists clenched at his sides. His voice dropped low, almost trembling. "You're still the only woman I've ever loved." The words silenced the corridor. Malik's smirk faltered, and Renee froze. Her heart slammed against her ribs. That night, back at the apartment, Renee sat on her bed, staring at the Harrington contracts. Her mind replayed Roman's words. "You're the only woman I've ever loved." She wanted to believe him. Part of her still did, but she remembered standing at that altar, his silence crushing her soul. Imani stormed into the room, her fiery eyes narrowing at the documents spread across the bed. "What is this?" "Malik wants me to chair his foundation," Renee murmured. "He says it's about power, about me taking control." Imani scoffed. "Power? Or a golden leash? You think he's doing this because he's in love with you? He wants to parade you in front of Roman until Sinclair bleeds." Renee rubbed her temples, hazel eyes clouded with torment. "Then what do I do, Imani? Roman says he loves me, Malik says he'll make me untouchable, and Angela—" Her voice cracked. "Angela wants to destroy me no matter what I choose." Imani sat beside her, grabbing her hands. "Then stop thinking about them. For once, think about you. Use their love. Use their power. Stop being the pawn and become the queen." Renee looked up, startled by her sister's fierceness. Imani squeezed tighter. "You can love whoever you want later, but right now, make them both fight on your terms." Meanwhile, Angela sat in her study, reviewing a dossier freshly delivered by her investigator. Her manicured fingers flipped through photos of Renee's modest childhood home, her mother's medical debts, her father's bankruptcy filings. Angela's lips curled with satisfaction. "Perfect," she whispered. She picked up her phone, dialing a trusted journalist. "I have a story for you." Exclusive. Let's see how America feels about their so-called Cinderella bride when they know her family's drowning in debt. Her laugh echoed through the mansion, sharp and merciless. Renee stood on her balcony, city lights flickering against her skin. Behind her, the Harrington contract sat signed, her name inked across the page. She whispered to herself, her hazel eyes hardening. If Angela wants war, then war is exactly what she'll get. But deep inside, her heart betrayed her resolve, still aching for Roman's words, still haunted by the love she couldn't bury. And as the night wind whipped through her curls, Renee realized the truth. This wasn't just Angela's war anymore, it was hers. The Harrington ballroom glittered with gold and crystal, chandeliers spilling light across the polished marble floor. Guests in diamonds and silk swirled to the rhythm of a live jazz band, their laughter mixing with champagne flutes clinking. At the center of it all stood Renee Carter, emerald satin gown hugging her figure, hazel eyes catching the light. She had been Malik's guest at many events since the gala, but tonight felt different. Tonight, whispers followed her wherever she moved. "Isn't that the Sinclair bride?" one socialite hissed behind a jeweled fan. "They say Malik's already claimed her," another replied with a smirk. "Poor Roman, left in ruins," came the cruel laugh of a third. Renee kept her chin high, her graceful smile masking the sting of their words. Malik Harrington approached, his black suit perfectly cut, his walnut-brown skin glowing under the chandeliers, his hand extended toward her. "Dance with me," he said smoothly, not as a request, but a command. Renee hesitated only a second before placing her hand in his. Malik's grip was firm, his other hand pressing against the small of her back as he led her onto the floor. The crowd parted as the music slowed. A hush fell as the rival billionaire twirled Renee beneath the golden light. "She's stunning," whispered a guest. "And untouchable now," said another. Malik leaned down, his lips brushing against her ear. "Do you hear them? They see you, Renee. They finally see what I've seen all along." Her hazel eyes softened, caught between flattery and unease. His hold was strong, protective even, but something about the weight of his gaze made her chest tighten. Across the room, Roman Sinclair stood rigid near the champagne bar, his jaw tight as he watched the woman he loved glide across the floor in another man's arms. His espresso brown eyes darkened with anguish and fury, every muscle in his tall frame coiled with restraint. Later, when the song ended and Malik was pulled away by a group of investors, Renee slipped onto the balcony for air. The city stretched before her, glittering like 1,000 secrets. She closed her eyes, the night breeze teasing her curls. "Renee!" The voice was low, hoarse. She spun around. Roman stepped out of the shadows, the moonlight brushing over his espresso skin. He had shed his tuxedo jacket, his white shirt open at the collar. Vulnerability replaced the usual confidence in his face. "What are you doing here?" she demanded, her voice sharp to mask the sudden flutter in her chest. "I had to see you," he said, stepping closer. "I had to tell you what I should have shouted that day in the cathedral." Her hazel eyes narrowed, the memory stabbing fresh. "You had the chance, Roman. The whole world was watching, and you said nothing. You let your mother destroy me." His jaw clenched. "I failed you. I won't deny it. But I love you, Renee. You are the only woman I'll ever love. Nothing she does, nothing Malik offers, none of it changes that." The words hung in the air, heavy and dangerous. Renee's breath caught. Her heart screamed to believe him, but her mind replayed the humiliation, the silence, the betrayal. Tears stung her eyes, though she blinked them back. "You don't get to say that now," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Not after everything." Roman's voice cracked. I'll spend the rest of my life proving it, if you let me." Before she could respond, the balcony door opened. Malik stepped out, his dark eyes narrowing as he took in the scene. "Well," he drawled, slipping an arm possessively around Renee's waist, "isn't this cozy?" Renee stiffened in his grip, torn between the fire in Roman's words and the steel in Malik's hold. Across the city, in the Sinclair estate, Angela met with Vivian Prescott, daughter of an influential senator. Vivian was tall, poised, with glossy skin and a practiced smile that oozed elegance. Angela poured her a glass of wine. "Roman needs a woman of class, grace, power, not that Carter girl." Vivian tilted her head, feigning modesty. "And you believe I fit that role?" Angela's smile was sharp. "Perfectly. A secret engagement first, a society announcement later. Together, we will erase Renee Carter from the Sinclair name." Vivian's eyes glittered. "Then let's destroy her." Meanwhile, Lennox Sinclair lingered in his private office, papers untouched, drink half full. The image of Renee in Malik's arms haunted him. He had loved her quietly, secretly for years, but loyalty to Roman and fear of Angela had chained his heart in silence. He slammed his glass down, muttering, "Why him? Why Malik?" His reflection in the window sneered back at him. He had stood on the sidelines too long, torn between blood and desire. Finally, he whispered into the empty room, "Renee, if only you knew." Back at the gala, Renee returned home late, her emerald gown pooling around her as she collapsed onto her bed. Her hazel eyes stared at the ceiling, her heart in chaos. Roman's words echoed, "You're the only woman I'll ever love." Malik's voice followed, "You'll be untouchable with me." Angela's cruelty still burned. "You are nothing." Imani slipped into the room, sitting at her side. "You look torn in half." Renee gave a bitter laugh. "Because I am. Roman has my heart. Malik offers me power. And Angela, she wants to erase me completely." Imani took her hand, squeezing gently. "So maybe it's time you stop playing by their rules. Maybe it's time you choose you." Renee's eyes shimmered with tears, but behind them, a fire flickered. For the first time, she wondered if love alone was enough, or if survival meant becoming as ruthless as those who tried to break her. That night, as Renee drifted into uneasy sleep, Angela was sealing Roman's secret engagement, Malik was plotting his next move, and Lennox was drowning in forbidden longing. The whispers of love that surrounded her were growing into storms, and Renee, caught between passion and power, stood at the center of it all, her next choice capable of rewriting everything. The dossier landed on Angela Sinclair's mahogany desk with a heavy thud. "Every detail," the investigator said crisply. His sharp eyes glittered with satisfaction as he slid the folder toward her. Angela opened it, her manicured fingers flipping through photographs and financial statements. Her smile widened with each page. Carter family medical debt, $280,000. Bankruptcy filings, 2015. Foreclosed property, 2018. Angela's espresso brown eyes gleamed. Perfect. Exactly what I needed. The investigator leaned forward, enough to destroy her reputation permanently. One leak, and she'll never escape the label of a desperate social climber. Angela closed the folder with a decisive snap. "Do it! Let the world see who Renee Carter really is." Renee sat in her modest living room, sipping tea as her hazel eyes stared blankly at the city skyline. She hadn't stepped outside much since the gala. The whispers followed her everywhere. Malik's sudden declaration that she was the future Mrs. Harrington still echoed in society circles. Her phone buzzed, another notification, another headline. "Carter family, drowning in debt, Bride turned socialite using billionaires to escape poverty? Her chest tightened. Her hands shook as she scrolled, seeing photos of her childhood home plastered across gossip blogs. Every unpaid medical bill, every financial struggle her family had endured was twisted into scandal. "No," she whispered, her throat closing. Imani stormed in moments later, her phone in hand, face flushed with rage. "Angela, it has to be her. Who else would dig this deep? Who else would humiliate us like this?" Renee dropped the phone, her eyes brimming with tears. "They've turned my family into headlines." Imani grabbed her shoulders, shaking gently. "Don't you dare let them break you. They want you ashamed. They want you crawling. Stand tall, Renee. Always." That evening, Malik arrived unannounced. His presence filled the doorway, 6'3" in a navy suit, his walnut-brown skin flawless, his expression unreadable. He carried an envelope in one hand. "Renee," he said smoothly, stepping inside. "I saw the headlines. It's disgusting what Angela's doing, but I can fix this." He handed her the envelope. Inside were checks, dozens of them, large enough to wipe her family's debts clean. "You don't need to live under this shadow anymore," Malik said, his voice low. "Let me take care of it. One signature, and you're free." Renee stared at the papers, her hazel eyes wide. For a moment, her heart pounded with relief, but then the weight of it hit her. Accepting this meant surrender. It meant proving Angela right, that she was a woman who needed a billionaire to survive. She shoved the envelope back at him. "No," Malik's brows arched. "Renee, I won't let her win by becoming exactly what she calls me. A gold digger, a parasite. I'll carry my family's debts myself before I let anyone think I sold my soul for a bailout." Malik's jaw tightened, but then he gave a slow, impressed smile. "You're stronger than most. That's why I want you." But his words felt like chains, not wings. By morning, the story had spread everywhere. Debt-ridden bride now courting rival billionaire. From bankruptcy to billionaire's bed. Renee Carter, America's most glamorous gold digger. Paparazzi swarmed outside her building. Neighbors whispered when she left to buy groceries. Even at coffee shops, strangers sneered. "She's just playing them both." First Roman, now Malik. What's next? Lennox. The cruel laughter stung worse than Angela's words. Renee felt her dignity unravel with every flash of a camera. Days later, at a charity luncheon hosted by Angela Sinclair herself, Imani arrived uninvited. The ballroom buzzed with society's finest, but the air thickened when she stormed in, her golden brown skin glowing with fury, her knotless braids whipping behind her. Angela's eyes narrowed. "What is she doing here?" Imani's voice carried across the hall. "You think you're clever, don't you? Destroying my sister, dragging our family through the mud. But hear me, Angela, you will never break Renee." Gasps echoed as cameras turned, recording the spectacle. Angela's lips curled into a sharp smile. "My dear, no one had to destroy her. She came pre-packaged with scandal." Imani slammed her hand against a table, making glasses tremble. "The only scandal here is you. A mother who humiliates her own son for the sake of greed. History won't remember Renee as the ruined bride. It will remember Angela Sinclair as the woman who tried and failed to destroy love." Chaos erupted as reporters swarmed, guests whispering in shock. Angela's mask of control cracked, her face tightening with rage. Renee, watching from afar on her phone, felt a surge of pride and dread. That night, Lennox knocked quietly at Renee's door. When she opened it, she found him standing awkwardly, his deep chocolate skin illuminated by the dim hall light, his suit slightly rumpled, his eyes full of something unspoken. Renee, he began softly, I know this isn't the right time, but I can't stay silent anymore. Her brow furrowed. Lennox. He stepped closer, his voice trembling. I've watched you fight, suffer, rise again, and I've watched my family, my own blood, tear you down. But I can't pretend anymore. I love you. The words stunned her into silence. I know you're tangled between Roman and Malik. I know I shouldn't say this, but my heart doesn't care. He took a breath, his voice raw. If Roman had defended you at that altar, maybe I could have buried these feelings. But he didn't. And every time Malik parades you like a prize, I want to tear the world apart. Because you're not a prize, Renee. You're everything. Her hazel eyes brimmed with tears. Lennox. He reached for her hand but stopped just short, trembling. I don't expect you to return it, but I needed you to know. Because while they fight over you, I see you. The real you. Renee pulled her hand back gently, her heart aching under the weight of his confession. She had no words, only confusion, pain, and a storm of emotions threatening to drown her. When Lennox finally left, Renee sank onto the couch, her head in her hands. Angela was destroying her publicly. Malik was trying to buy her loyalty. Roman had confessed his love too late, and now Lennox, loyal, kind Lennox, had confessed his forbidden feelings. Her world spun in every direction, but one truth seared through her. No matter what she chose, someone would be destroyed. And in the silence of her apartment, as the city lights flickered outside, Renee realized her war was no longer just survival. It was destiny. The night sky above New York glittered with cold stars, but inside the Harrington penthouse ballroom, the air pulsed with heat, whispers, and tension. Malik Harrington had invited the cream of society to what he promised would be an unforgettable evening. Renee Carter hadn't known what he meant until the moment came. She stood in the center of the polished black marble floor, emerald silk gown clinging to her frame, curls cascading down her back. Chandeliers blazed overhead, throwing light onto her hazel eyes as every guest turned to stare. And then Malik dropped to one knee. The room gasped in unison. Renee Carter, Malik said, his deep voice carrying through the hall. The world has mocked you, shamed you, underestimated you, but I see you for who you are, my equal, my future. From his velvet box, he opened a diamond so large the crowd audibly gasped again. The stone caught the chandelier light, scattering rainbows across her face. Marry me, Malik declared. Marry me and let's build an empire together. Phones shot into the air. Flashbulbs lit the scene. Society erupted in whispers. She's done it. Harrington's bride. From scandal to victory. Can you believe it? Roman Sinclair is finished. Renee's chest tightened. The weight of the ring, the stares, the whispers. They pressed against her like a vice. Her lips parted. The room seemed to hold its breath. And then, stop! The voice cut through the ballroom like a blade. Gasps rippled as Roman Sinclair strode into the hall. Tuxedo sharp, jaw clenched, eyes blazing. His 6'2" frame commanded the floor as if the building itself belonged to him. She doesn't belong to you, Malik, Roman thundered. His espresso-brown skin glistened under the lights, his fists tight at his sides. She belongs with me. The room exploded in murmurs, cameras flashing wildly. Malik rose slowly from his knee, snapping the velvet box shut. His smirk was ice cold. Funny, Malik said softly, venom lacing each word. I don't recall seeing you kneeling, Sinclair. I recall seeing you standing frozen while your mother ripped her apart in front of the world. Roman's eyes flicked toward Renee, burning with desperation. I made a mistake, but I love you, Renee. I always have. The crowd gasped. Even Malik faltered slightly. But before Renee could answer, a chilling voice slashed the air. Enough! Angela Sinclair had arrived, draped in a gold silk gown, diamonds dripping from her neck. She glided forward like a queen entering her throne room. Her espresso eyes gleamed with cruel authority. My son will not throw away his legacy for this girl again, Angela said sharply. Roman, if you choose her, you are no longer my heir. No Sinclair fortune, no Sinclair empire, nothing. A collective gasp shuddered through the ballroom. Roman's face blanched. He turned to his mother, rage battling desperation. You would cut me off. For love? Angela's lips curled. For survival. The Sinclair name will not be dragged through the mud a second time. Choose Roman, her, or everything you've ever known. The silence was deafening. What? Renee's heart thudded painfully. This was the moment. Roman could have chosen her, could have silenced his mother, could have proved his love. But Roman's lips parted, and no words came. His silence screamed louder than anything. Her hazel eyes brimmed with tears, but they didn't fall. Instead, fury burned through her veins. She turned on him, her voice trembling but sharp. You had the chance to defend me at the altar, and you stayed silent. Now again, when it matters most, you hesitate. You'll always hesitate. Roman flinched as though struck. You're not strong enough to fight for me, Renee whispered, her voice breaking. The crowd murmured, shock spreading like wildfire. Roman stepped forward, his espresso eyes begging. Renee, please! But she raised her hand, stopping him. No more. You've lost me. Malik's smirk returned, victorious. He turned to the crowd, lifting the velvet box high. Then let it be known, he declared, his deep voice resonant, that I stand where Sinclair fell, that I claim not out of pity, but pride. He turned back to Renee, opening the box once more. The diamond blazed like fire between them. Renee Carter, will you marry me? The room pulsed with tension. Renee looked at Roman, his face pale, eyes shattered, and then at Angela, lips curled in cruel satisfaction. And then she looked at Malik, ruthless, calculated, but unwavering. Her heart whispered Roman's name, but her pride, her fury, screamed louder. Her voice, when it came, was steady. Yes. The room erupted into chaos. Flashbulbs blinded her. Guests shrieked, some in shock, others in delight. Malik slid the massive diamond onto her finger, pulling her into his arms as the crowd applauded. Roman's face collapsed, his broad shoulders slumped, espresso eyes wet with anguish. He turned and walked out, each step heavy as though he carried the weight of the world. Angela's smile widened, though for the first time, a flicker of unease shadowed her eyes. She had wanted Renee gone, but not aligned with Harrington, Sinclair's greatest rival. Later, in Malik's private suite, Renee sat on the velvet couch, staring at the diamond glittering on her finger. Her chest felt hollow, her heart heavy. Malik poured 2 glasses of champagne, his dark eyes gleaming with victory. He handed one to her. To new beginnings, he said smoothly, clinking his glass against hers. She forced a smile, but her hazel eyes betrayed the storm inside. This wasn't love. This was war. She had said yes, not to Malik, not even to herself, but to the anger that burned against Roman and Angela both. Back at his penthouse, Roman stood before the window, city lights reflecting in his espresso dark eyes. His fists slammed against the glass. She said yes, he whispered hoarsely. Lennox entered quietly, concern shadowing his face. Roman! Roman turned sharply, pain etched into every line of his face. She chose him, Lennox. She chose Harrington. Lennox's throat tightened. He wanted to comfort his cousin, but his own confession to Renee weighed heavy on him. His silence was his penance. Roman's chest heaved. I won't let him win. I won't let her go. Not like this. Meanwhile, Angela paced her study, a glass of wine trembling in her hand. Her investigator had given her everything she wanted. She had destroyed Renee's reputation. She had cornered Roman, and yet Renee hadn't crumbled. She had risen. And now she wasn't just a scandal. She was Harrington's fiancée. Angela's lips thinned. "This isn't over," she hissed. Alone in her room, Renee slipped out of the emerald gown and stared at her reflection in the mirror. The diamond ring glittered on her finger, heavy as chains. Her hazel eyes brimmed with unshed tears. "You wanted strength, Renee," she whispered to herself. "Now you have it, but at what cost?" The reflection staring back wasn't the woman who had once dreamed of a simple life with Roman Sinclair. This was a new Renee, a woman forged by humiliation, pride, and rage. And she knew one thing for certain. The war had only just begun. The diamond on Renee's finger caught the morning light like a star, but instead of joy, it weighed on her hand like a chain. She sat by the window of Malik Harrington's penthouse suite, robe draped over her slender frame, curls tumbling over her shoulders. Her hazel eyes were distant as her phone buzzed relentlessly beside her. Every notification was the same. Billionaire Malik Harrington engaged to former Sinclair bride. From rejection to revenge, Renee Carter scores a diamond victory. Sinclair's loss is Harrington's gain. The headlines screamed triumph, but to Renee they felt hollow. She touched the massive diamond again, her heart sinking. What have I done? At the Sinclair estate, Angela sat in her golden salon, sipping champagne with her circle of high society friends. Her laughter was sharp, her words dripping with triumph. "Well, ladies, I told you," Angela said, emerald rings glittering as she lifted her glass. "My son dodged a bullet. Renee Carter may have landed herself a Harrington, but now she's Malik's problem." Her companions chuckled in agreement. "And to think she nearly became a Sinclair," one woman sneered. Angela smirked. She wanted the Sinclair crown. Now she can settle for being a consolation prize. But deep down, Angela's smile faltered for a moment. Malik Harrington was no harmless distraction. He was Roman's fiercest rival. Aligning with him didn't erase Renee. It made her more dangerous. Angela's jaw tightened, though her friends didn't notice. She raised her glass again, masking her unease. To Roman's freedom and Renee's downfall. Meanwhile, Roman Sinclair sat slumped in his penthouse living room, glass of whiskey in hand. The curtains were drawn, the air thick with silence. His usually sharp espresso brown eyes were bloodshot, his shirt rumpled, his tie discarded carelessly. On the table before him, newspapers lay scattered, each headline screaming Renee's engagement to Malik. "She said yes," he muttered, his deep voice hoarse. He lifted the glass, swallowing hard, but it didn't dull the ache. Memories clawed at him. Renee's radiant smile walking down the aisle, her trembling hand gripping his, the softness of her voice whispering his name in the dark. And then, the memory that crushed him most, her eyes filled with fury and betrayal when she told him he wasn't strong enough to fight for her. Roman slammed the glass onto the table, shattering it. Whiskey spilled across the wood, dripping to the floor. Lennox burst in moments later, alarmed. "Roman, what are you doing to yourself?" Roman looked up, rage and pain twisting his features. "She's gone, Lennox. She chose him." Lennox's throat tightened. He wanted to admit his own secret, that he had confessed his love to Renee too. But guilt chained his tongue. Roman stood, pacing furiously. "Malik parades her like a trophy, and I let it happen. I let my mother destroy her. And now," his fists clenched, "now he has her." Lennox's gaze softened. "Do you still love her?" Roman's laugh was bitter, broken. Love. Love doesn't even cover it. She's my life, Lennox, and I lost her. While Roman drowned in grief, Malik reveled in victory. Days after the proposal, Malik hosted a press gala at the Harrington Plaza, cameras flashing as Renee stood beside him in a silver gown that shimmered under the lights. Her curls were styled to perfection, her diamond ring front and center, as reporters shoved microphones toward her. "Renee, how does it feel to be the future Mrs. Harrington? Did Malik rescue you after your humiliation? Was this revenge against Roman Sinclair?" Before Renee could answer, Malik slipped his arm around her waist, pulling her close. "It feels exactly as it should," he said smoothly. "Powerful, victorious. Together, Renee and I will redefine what it means to be unstoppable." The crowd cheered, cameras flashed, Renee smiled, but it was brittle, her hazel eyes betraying emptiness. Inside, her thoughts screamed, "I'm not unstoppable. I'm trapped." That evening, Malik whisked her to a gala in the Hamptons. Every step she took was documented. Every gown, every smile, every ring shot. "She looks stunning," whispered one guest. "She's Harrington's jewel now," said another. Malik soaked in the attention, proudly parading her through the crowd, but Renee's smile barely held. On the dance floor, Malik pulled her close, his deep voice brushing her ear. "This is what you deserve, Renee. Admiration, fear, power." She swallowed hard. "And love?" Malik's smirk widened. "Love is for fools. Power lasts longer." Her chest tightened. She forced a smile for the cameras, but her heart cracked further. Back at the apartment later that week, Imani sat across from her sister, fury in her eyes. "Do you even hear yourself anymore?" Imani snapped. "You're letting Malik use you as his weapon against Roman. This isn't about love, Renee. It's about war." Renee's hazel eyes shimmered with conflict. "What choice do I have, Imani? Angela destroyed me. Roman betrayed me. Malik is the only one who stood by me." Imani leaned forward, gripping her sister's hands. "Number Malik stood over you, not beside you. He doesn't love you, Renee. He loves winning." Tears welled in Renee's eyes. She pulled her hands away, whispering, "Maybe that's enough. Maybe winning is all I have left." One night, Roman stumbled drunkenly into his penthouse bedroom, collapsing onto the bed, still in his wrinkled suit. His phone buzzed. Photos of Renee at another gala, her smile dazzling, Malik at her side. Roman stared at the screen until his vision blurred. His chest heaved, his voice raw. "She's mine," he whispered to the darkness. "She'll always be mine." His fists clenched until his knuckles turned white. But for the first time in his life, Roman Sinclair realized love and power might not be enough to get her back. Late one night, Renee stood alone on Malik's penthouse balcony, the city glittering below. She held her hand up, staring at the diamond ring. The stone sparkled beautifully, but to her it looked like a shackle. Her hazel eyes filled with tears. "This isn't me," she whispered. In the glass doors behind her, Malik appeared, his silhouette sharp, his presence looming. "Cold night," he said casually, sliding his arms around her. "But don't worry, soon you'll be Mrs. Harrington. The world will bow." Renee's lips pressed into a thin line. She forced a smile, but inside her soul screamed, "The world might bow, but my heart never will." As dawn broke the next morning, tabloids hailed her as the rival billionaire bride. Angela gloated. Roman drank himself deeper into despair. Malik basked in triumph. And Renee Carter, once a bride full of hope, stood at the center of a battlefield she no longer recognized, envied by millions, desired by two men, but chained by a choice that felt less like victory and more like surrender. Her story was no longer about love. It was about survival. And deep down, Renee knew The day would come when she would have to choose again. The Sinclair boardroom was a fortress of mahogany walls, oil paintings of ancestors, and a long polished table that had witnessed decades of ruthless deals. For years, Angela Sinclair had ruled this room like a queen, her whispers steering votes, her presence bending men of power to her will. But tonight, her empire trembled. Lennox Sinclair sat at the far end of the table, his deep chocolate skin illuminated by the glow of the projector. In his hands was a folder stuffed with documents, proof of Angela's corruption. He rose slowly, his broad shoulders squared. "Gentlemen," Lennox began, his voice steady, "I apologize for disrupting our scheduled agenda, but I can no longer stay silent." Angela's eyes narrowed, her fingers tightening around her diamond pen. "Lennox, what are you doing?" He ignored her. For years, this board has believed Angela Sinclair acted in the best interests of the company. But the truth... He laid the documents on the table with a resounding slap. "Is that she's been siphoning funds, manipulating contracts, and using company assets to fuel her own influence." Gasps rippled through the room. One board member adjusted his glasses, scanning the first page. "Offshore accounts?" Another muttered, "Shell companies linked to charitable trusts." Angela's smile didn't falter, but her knuckles whitened. "This is nonsense. Fabrications. Lennox, you dare betray your own blood?" Lennox's eyes, usually soft, burned with quiet fury. "I'm not betraying blood. I'm saving it. Roman deserves better. This company deserves better." Angela's voice cracked like a whip. "You insolent child!" But the board members cut her off. "Mrs. Sinclair, if these documents are true," one of them said gravely, "your influence here is over." The doors to the boardroom burst open. Roman Sinclair entered, tall and commanding, espresso brown skin gleaming under the light, jaw set in determination. He looked at Lennox, then at his mother, then at the board. "What my cousin says is true," Roman announced. His deep voice reverberated through the chamber. "I stayed silent too long, letting my mother's shadow define me. But no longer. The Sinclair Empire belongs to me, and from this day forward, I will lead it without her interference." Angela's face drained of color. "Roman, you can't—" "I can," Roman snapped, his voice sharper than steel. "You tried to destroy the woman I loved. You humiliated her, and in the process, you almost destroyed me. But I've learned, I've grown, and I will not let you poison this company, or my life, any longer." The board erupted in murmurs, several members nodding in agreement. Angela's voice cracked. "Roman, I am your mother." "You are my enemy," Roman cut in, his dark eyes blazing. "And I am done being your pawn." Silence fell. For the first time in decades, Angela Sinclair stood powerless in the boardroom she once ruled. Meanwhile, across the city, Malik Harrington poured champagne into 2 crystal flutes as Renee stood stiffly beside him in his penthouse. The tabloids had turned their engagement into a circus of headlines. Harrington Empire expands with fiancé. The power couple of the decade. But the reality behind the glitter was far less romantic. Malik handed Renee a folder. "These are the events you'll be attending this week. Charity galas, foundation dinners, business luncheons. You'll sit at my side, smile for the cameras, and remind the world that you are mine." Renee's hazel eyes flicked over the endless itinerary. "That's every night." Malik smirked. "Of course, power doesn't sleep." She set the folder down, her voice low. "And love?" Malik's expression hardened. "Love is for the weak. We are not weak. Together, we are unstoppable." Her chest tightened, the weight of the diamond ring on her finger feeling heavier by the day. She forced a smile, but inside her soul whispered, This isn't what I wanted." Back in the boardroom, Roman stood tall as the board members rose, applauding. For the first time, he wasn't the son overshadowed by his mother. He was a leader. Lennox placed a firm hand on his cousin's shoulder. "You did it." Roman nodded, though his eyes carried shadows. "This is only the beginning. Malik has her now, and Angela won't go quietly." Angela glared at them both, her voice trembling with venom. "You think you've won? Renee may wear Harrington's ring, but mark my words, she will destroy you both, and when she does, I'll be waiting." Roman's jaw tightened. "No, Mother. Renee didn't destroy me, you did, and that's why you've lost." Later that night, Renee stood before her mirror, adjusting a diamond necklace Malik had gifted her. The reflection staring back wasn't the girl who had once dreamed of marrying for love. She looked like a queen, but felt like a prisoner. Imani entered, folding her arms. "You're quiet." Renee's voice was faint. "Do you ever wonder if I made a mistake?" Imani sighed, sitting on the edge of the bed. "Every day, but you're my sister, and if you want out, we'll find a way out." Renee's hazel eyes brimmed with tears. "I thought Malik would save me. I thought he saw my worth, but all he sees is the war. I traded love for power, and now I'm chained to both." Imani reached for her hand. "Then break the chain. Don't wait for them to decide your fate. Decide it yourself." As midnight blanketed the city, 3 lives shifted. Roman Sinclair reclaimed his empire, standing tall at last against the mother who had tried to control him. Malik Harrington celebrated his victory, blind to the cracks forming in Renee's spirit. And Renee Carter, glittering in jewels yet hollow inside, realized a truth she could no longer ignore. She was not Malik's partner. She was his possession. Her heart still whispered Roman's name, but her pride chained her to Malik's side. And as Angela Sinclair sat alone in her study, her empire crumbling around her, she vowed with venomous certainty, "If I cannot control Roman, then I will destroy Renee Carter once and for all." The Harrington mansion was a fortress of glass and steel, perched high above the city. To the world, it symbolized victory. Renee Carter had ascended from humiliation to luxury, her hand claimed by one of America's most powerful billionaires. But inside her heart, the walls pressed tighter each day. That evening, Malik had whisked her to a charity gala at the Harrington Botanical Gardens. Lanterns glowed softly among roses and marble fountains, casting golden halos on the manicured paths. Guests mingled under silk canopies, sipping champagne and snapping photos of the newly engaged couple. Renee smiled for the cameras, but her hazel eyes flickered with unease. Malik's hand never left her waist, firm, possessive, as though reminding the world she was his trophy. She excused herself under the pretense of fresh air, her emerald gown brushing the gravel path as she slipped deeper into the gardens. The night air was cooler there, heavy with jasmine and roses. She closed her eyes, breathing in relief, and then, "Renee!" Her heart stopped. She turned, and there he was, Roman Sinclair, tall, broad-shouldered, his espresso-brown skin gleaming under the lantern light, his tuxedo sharp, but his eyes, those dark, haunted eyes, burned with longing. "What are you doing here?" she whispered, fear and desire colliding in her chest. Roman stepped closer, his deep voice trembling. "I had to see you. I had to tell you, face to face, that I've cut her off. My mother, Angela, she has no power over me anymore." Renee's breath caught. "Roman!" He reached for her hand, his touch warm, trembling. "I should have fought for you that day. I should have silenced her, should have shouted my love for you to the world. Instead, I froze, and I've hated myself every day since." Tears welled in Renee's eyes. "You don't understand. It's too late. I'm with Malik now. The world, the headlines. Roman shook his head fiercely. Forget the world. Forget him. Look at me, Renee. Do you still love me? Her lips parted, her chest heaving. She wanted to deny it, to bury it beneath pride and fury. But the truth ripped free, trembling and raw. Yes, she whispered. God help me, yes. Roman's face broke, anguish and relief colliding. He pulled her into his arms, his lips brushing against her curls. She melted against him, breathing in the familiar scent of cedar and whiskey, the strength of the man she had once trusted with her whole heart. For a moment, the world vanished. No Angela, no Malik, just them, two souls who had lost everything but still clung to each other in the shadows. I don't care what it takes, Roman whispered fiercely against her ear. I'll fight Malik. I'll fight the world. I'll spend the rest of my life proving to you that I'll never hesitate again. Renee pulled back, her hazel eyes shimmering. And if Malik finds out? Roman's jaw tightened. Then let him. But even as he said it, danger crackled in the night air. The sharp crunch of footsteps shattered the fragile moment. Malik Harrington emerged from the shadows, his walnut-brown skin illuminated by the lantern glow, his tailored black suit immaculate, but his eyes, his dark, stormy eyes, blazed with fury. Well, well, Malik drawled, his deep voice sharp as broken glass. Isn't this touching? My fiancée, sneaking into gardens to whisper love confessions with her ex. Renee froze, her heart slamming against her ribs. Malik! Roman stepped forward, placing himself between them. This isn't what it looks like. Malik's laugh was cold. It looks exactly like betrayal, Sinclair, and trust me, I don't take betrayal lightly. He turned his gaze on Renee, voice dropping to a venomous hiss. After everything I've given you, after I paraded you before the world, put my empire behind your name, you repay me with this? Renee's voice cracked. Malik, please. Malik's jaw clenched, his fists curling. You think you can humiliate me like she humiliated you? He glared at Roman. You've always been her weakness, but now you've made yourself my enemy. The tension was suffocating, the garden suddenly too small for the three of them. Roman's voice cut through, deep and steady. She's not your possession, Malik. She's her own woman, and if you ever try to cage her again... Malik stepped forward, inches from Roman, his voice a lethal whisper. You'll regret it! Renee thrust herself between them, her gown shimmering under the lanterns. Stop it, both of you! Her hazel eyes darted from Roman's blazing fury to Malik's cold wrath. This isn't about empires, or power, or revenge. This is my life, my heart, and neither of you get to tear it apart like this. Malik's chest heaved, nostrils flaring. Roman's fists trembled at his sides. For a moment, silence hung heavy. Then Malik turned sharply, his voice low and dangerous. Enjoy your stolen moment, Renee. But remember, when the cameras turn back on, you are mine, and the world will see you as Mrs. Harrington, whether you like it or not. With that, he stormed away, his shadow vanishing into the night. Renee collapsed onto the garden bench, trembling. Roman knelt before her, his large hands gently holding hers. You don't have to stay with him, Roman said, his voice desperate. Run away with me. Tonight, we can start over. Just us. Her hazel eyes shimmered with longing. She wanted to say yes. God, she wanted to. But Malik's fury still rang in her ears, his power looming like a cage she couldn't escape. I can't, she whispered, choking back tears. He won't let me, and if I try, he'll destroy you. Roman's eyes hardened. Then let him try. But Renee shook her head, pulling her hands away. I can't risk it, Roman. I can't watch you fall because of me. She rose, her gown swishing against the gravel path, and walked back toward the glittering lights of the gala. Each step felt like a dagger. Roman remained kneeling in the shadows, his chest heaving, his heart breaking all over again. Later that night, back at the apartment, Imani paced furiously as Renee recounted what had happened. Imani's golden-brown skin flushed with anger, her eyes blazing. "I knew it. Malik's not just controlling. He's dangerous. This isn't love, Renee. This is possession. He'll cage you until there's nothing left of you." Renee buried her face in her hands. "What am I supposed to do, Imani? If I leave, he'll destroy Roman. If I stay, I'll destroy myself." Imani knelt beside her, gripping her shoulders. "Then listen to me, sis. You need to play smarter. Don't let him see your fear. Don't let him think he's won. Smile for the cameras, wear the ring, but never, ever forget who you are." Renee's hazel eyes lifted slowly, determination flickering through the tears. "You're stronger than both of them," Imani said fiercely, "and one day soon you'll prove it." That night, Renee lay in bed, staring at the diamond ring on her finger. The stone glittered in the darkness like a cruel reminder. Her heart ached for Roman, still burning with love. Her body trembled with fear of Malik, whose fury had revealed just how possessive he could be. And deep inside, a new flame ignited, a dangerous, quiet resolve. She would not be Malik's possession, she would not be Angela's victim, and she would not let Roman's weakness define her future. Renee Carter would rise, but in the shadows of the Harrington Empire, as Malik sat brooding with a glass of scotch, his vow echoed like thunder. "If she won't love me willingly, I'll make sure she belongs to me anyway." The Grand Sinclair Charity Gala had always been the crown jewel of New York's social calendar. Every year, the Sinclair name drew governors, senators, CEOs, and celebrities into the glittering ballroom beneath the crystal chandeliers of the Sinclair Hotel. But this year, the air was different. The whispers were sharper, the cameras more ruthless. The guests weren't here for charity, they were here for blood. Because tonight, 3 names haunted every conversation: Renee Carter, Malik Harrington, Roman Sinclair. Renee stepped out of the limousine onto the red carpet, cameras exploding like fireworks. She wore a gold silk gown that draped her slender curves like liquid sunlight. Her curls swept into a regal updo, her diamond engagement ring catching every flash. Malik Harrington, tall and commanding in a black velvet tuxedo, offered his arm with the pride of a man who thought he'd already won. "Smile," Malik murmured as reporters shouted her name. Renee obeyed, but inside, her hazel eyes felt hollow. Each smile felt heavier than the last, the ring on her finger like a shackle. "Over here, Renee, show us the ring." "Is it true Roman tried to win you back? Are you really in love with Malik, or is this revenge?" She forced a polite laugh, brushing past them into the ballroom, but the questions carved at her soul. Inside, Roman Sinclair stood at the bar, whiskey in hand, his espresso brown eyes locked on the couple. He looked devastating in his tailored charcoal tuxedo, but his face was taut with fury. Every step Renee took beside Malik sliced deeper into his chest. Lennox approached cautiously, placing a hand on Roman's shoulder. "Don't do anything reckless tonight." Roman's jaw clenched. He parades her like a trophy, like she's nothing but a headline. "I can't—" He cut himself off, swallowing hard. His voice dropped to a whisper. "She still loves me, Lennox. I felt it. I saw it in her eyes in that garden." Lennox's throat tightened. "She doesn't only love you," he thought bitterly, recalling his own confession, but he said nothing. At the head of the ballroom, Angela Sinclair worked the crowd in a ruby gown, her smile flawless as she charmed senators and CEOs. But underneath, she was restless. The board had turned against her weeks ago, Lennox's leaks of her corruption had been quietly circling. Tonight, whispers of her downfall floated through the crowd like smoke. She's losing her grip. The board won't back her much longer. Roman's reclaiming everything. Angela's nails dug into her champagne glass, her smile unbroken. She would not be humiliated. Not here. Not tonight. It happened quickly. Malik led Renee onto the stage to join the opening toast, his arm possessive around her waist. Roman, unable to restrain himself, pushed through the crowd, his tall frame cutting a path to the stage. "Stop this!" Roman growled, his voice carrying across the ballroom. "You're using her, Malik. You're humiliating her." Gasps rippled. The camera swung instantly toward the scene. Malik's smirk sharpened. "Humiliating her? Look around you, Sinclair. She's standing beside me as the future Mrs. Harrington, while you stand there, alone, forgotten." Renee froze between them, her hazel eyes darting wildly. "She doesn't belong to you," Roman thundered, stepping closer. "She belongs with me. She always has." The crowd gasped. Phones shot into the air. The ballroom erupted with whispers. Renee's chest heaved, her vision blurring under the weight of the spotlight, the heat of their fury, the suffocating pressure of being torn in half. I can't," she whispered. And then the world tilted, her knees buckled, the microphone slipped from her hand. The crowd screamed as Renee crumpled onto the marble stage. "Renee!" Roman lunged forward, catching her before her head hit the ground. He cradled her in his arms, her curls spilling across his tuxedo, her hazel eyes fluttering shut. Malik shoved forward, his face twisted with rage. "Get your hands off my fiancé!" The cameras flashed relentlessly, capturing every angle. The fallen bride, Roman clutching her, Malik snarling above them. Roman's dark eyes snapped up, blazing. "She's not your property, Malik." Malik's fists clenched, his voice venom. "She's mine. You had your chance, Sinclair, and you lost. She chose me." "She chose survival," Roman spat back. "Not you. She never loved you." Malik surged forward, his fist cocked, only to be intercepted by Lennox and 2 security guards. Guests screamed as glasses shattered, chairs overturned, and the ballroom descended into chaos. "Enough!" Lennox barked, his strong arms restraining Malik. "Not here, not now." But the damage was done. The world had already seen. In the middle of the chaos, Angela tried to restore order, rushing to the stage. "Ladies and gentlemen, please." But before she could finish, a young reporter seized the microphone. "Mrs. Sinclair, can you comment on the leaked documents tying you to embezzlement in the Sinclair empire?" The room fell silent, hundreds of eyes snapping toward her. Angela froze, her blood running cold. "What documents?" another reporter shouted. "Did you funnel funds into offshore accounts? Did you manipulate board contracts?" Flashes exploded, microphones thrust into her face. Angela's flawless mask cracked, her ruby lips parting in horror. "No comment," she stammered, retreating as whispers surged. "She's finished." "Roman's already taken over." "She's nothing now." For the first time in her life, Angela Sinclair fled a room she once ruled. Backstage, Roman laid Renee gently on a velvet chaise as paramedics checked her pulse. Her hazel eyes fluttered open, dazed. "Roman," she whispered faintly. "I'm here," he said, gripping her hand tightly. His voice cracked with emotion. "I'm never leaving you again." Before she could reply, Malik stormed in, his face thunder. "Get away from her." "Not a chance," Roman growled, refusing to release her hand. The paramedic cleared his throat nervously. "Please, gentlemen, she needs rest." "Rest," Malik snapped. "She needs to remember who she belongs to." Roman surged to his feet, standing chest to chest with Malik. "If you loved her, you'd see she's breaking. But you don't care about her. You care about winning. Renee struggled to sit, her voice trembling but firm. Stop it, both of you. The men froze as her hazel eyes blazed. I am not a prize to be won, not your revenge, not your redemption. I am Renee Carter, and I will decide my own fate. Her words sliced through the air like a blade. The explosion beyond the ballroom. By dawn, the headlines were everywhere. Renee Carter collapses at gala amid love triangle war. Roman versus Malik, billionaire rivalry turns violent over bride. Angela Sinclair exposed, empire matriarch, humiliated as corruption leaks. Clips of the confrontation went viral. Millions watched the moment Renee fainted into Roman's arms. Malik's fury boiling. Angela fleeing in disgrace. Social media exploded. She still loves Roman. I saw it in her eyes. Malik's dangerous. Did you see the way he grabbed her? Angela's finished. Good riddance. Renee Carter's name trended worldwide, but instead of power, she felt stripped bare, her life dissected by strangers, her heart torn between two men, her future uncertain. As the sun rose over New York, three figures stood on the brink of war. Roman Sinclair, resolute, ready to fight for love at any cost. Malik Harrington, humiliated, vowing vengeance with every breath. Angela Sinclair, disgraced, plotting her last strike from the shadows. And at the center of it all, Renee Carter lay awake in her penthouse bed, staring at the glittering diamond on her finger, whispering to herself, "This ring isn't love, it's a prison, and one day soon, I'll break free." The storm that began at the Sinclair Charity Gala hadn't ended. It had only grown louder. Every television station replayed the footage on an endless loop. Roman rushing to catch Renee as she fainted, Malik shouting, Angela fleeing reporters. Social media dissected every glance, every word, every shaky breath Renee had taken on stage. And now, Renee Carter, the woman once humiliated at the altar, was the center of a war too big for one heart to bear. The Harrington penthouse was silent except for the steady ticking of a gold clock. Renee stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows, her hazel eyes fixed on the city lights. The diamond on her finger glittered, mocking her. Malik entered the room, his stride sharp, his tuxedo jacket still on from another late meeting. He carried a glass of scotch in one hand, but his expression was carved from ice. "We set the date," he said flatly. Renee blinked, startled. "What?" "Our wedding," Malik said, his deep voice unyielding. "We set the date tonight. The world saw weakness at the gala. You collapsing into Sinclair's arms. The only way to erase it is to make this official." Her heart sank. "Malik, I fainted because you're under pressure." Malik cut her off. "And pressure makes diamonds. You're a Harrington now, Renee. Act like one." Her chest tightened, fury sparking. "I'm not a Harrington yet. I'm still Renee Carter." His dark eyes narrowed. "Not for long. I won't let Sinclair haunt us forever. The sooner you marry me, the sooner this circus ends." Renee's voice trembled with suppressed rage. "Or maybe the sooner it begins." For the first time, Malik's mask cracked. He set down the scotch, stepping closer, his towering frame casting her in shadow. "You will marry me, Renee, or you'll regret it." The words chilled her to the bone. Later that night, Renee slipped away to the Sinclair Gardens, seeking silence under the moonlight. But she wasn't alone. Roman waited for her there, leaning against the marble fountain, his espresso-brown skin luminous under the soft glow. His eyes softened when he saw her. "I had to see you," he whispered. Her chest ached. "Roman, if Malik finds out—" "I don't care," he interrupted, his voice trembling. "Renee, I'll wait, for years if I have to, for the rest of my life if that's what it takes. I'll wait until you're ready, until you're free, until you believe I'm strong enough to deserve you. Tears welled in her hazel eyes. Don't say things like that. It hurts too much. He stepped closer, brushing a curl from her face. It hurts because it's real, because no matter what you do, no matter who you stand beside, your heart still beats for me, and mine has never stopped beating for you. Her lips trembled. She wanted to fall into his arms, to let his love drown her doubts, but Malik's shadow loomed behind every thought. The next morning, Renee sat on her bed, her head in her hands, when Imani entered, her golden-brown skin glowing with righteous anger. "Sis," Imani said firmly, sitting beside her, "this ends now." Renee lifted her tear-stained face. "I don't know what to do, Imani. Malik threatens, Roman waits, Angela schemes. I'm suffocating." Imani gripped her hands tightly. "Listen to me. Forget the empires. Forget the tabloids. Forget Angela. What about you? What about your happiness?" Renee shook her head. "Happiness doesn't matter in their world. Power matters. Reputation matters." "No," Imani snapped. "Happiness is the only thing that matters. What's the point of diamonds if they choke you? What's the point of crowns if they cage you?" Renee's hazel eyes filled again. "But if I leave Malik, he'll ruin Roman, and if I stay, I'll ruin myself." Imani cupped her sister's face, her voice fierce. "Then choose the path that saves your soul. Because if you lose that, nothing else matters." That evening, Renee found herself alone in the Harrington balcony, overlooking the glittering city. Her reflection stared back at her in the glass doors. Gold gown, diamond ring, flawless makeup. But her eyes told the truth. Empty, broken, trapped. Her chest heaved as sobs tore free, her body shaking. For the first time since the ruined wedding, she let herself break. "I love him," she whispered to the night. "I still love Roman, but I can't let him be destroyed because of me." Her tears streaked her cheeks as she sank to the floor. The weight of the diamond ring pressed against her chest like a stone. Across town, Angela Sinclair sat in her marble study, documents strewn across her desk. The leaks of her corruption had grown into a storm she could no longer contain. The board had stripped her influence. The press had branded her a fraud. And Roman, her son, her empire, had cast her out. Her ruby lips trembled as she reached for her wineglass, her manicured hand shaking. She had spent a lifetime building an empire of power, only to see it crumble in months. And the final blow? The whispers now weren't about her triumphs. They were about Renee. Angela Sinclair loses everything to the bride she tried to destroy. Her chest heaved, the weight unbearable. And then, Angela collapsed onto the cold marble floor. The next morning, news of Angela's collapse spread across every outlet. Roman rushed to the hospital, torn between fury and grief. Malik ignored it, calling it karma. But Renee sat silently, staring at the headlines. The woman who had humiliated her, who had tried to destroy her, was finally broken. And instead of satisfaction, Renee felt pity, because she finally understood. Angela had lived her life chasing power, and it had left her empty, hated, and alone. Renee touched the diamond ring on her finger. Her hazel eyes hardened. That will not be me. Closing that night, as Malik slept beside her in the penthouse, Renee stood on the balcony, the city lights shimmering against her golden skin. For the first time, she admitted it fully. Not just in whispers, not just in tears. She loved Roman, she always had. And no threat, no empire, no ring could change that. Her choice had been made in her heart, though the world did not yet know. And as the wind whipped through her curls, Renee Carter vowed silently to herself, "I will not be Malik's possession. I will not be Angela's victim. I will not be Roman's regret. I will be my own salvation. The storm outside the Harrington penthouse mirrored the storm inside Renee's heart. Rain lashed against the glass walls, lightning illuminating the city skyline, thunder rattling the chandeliers. Renee stood before the floor-to-ceiling windows in her silk robe, her hazel eyes reflecting the storm. The diamond ring weighed heavy on her hand, once dazzling, now suffocating. Behind her, Malik Harrington poured scotch into a crystal glass, his walnut-brown skin glowing in the golden light. His voice was calm, too calm. "We announce the wedding date tomorrow," he said, sipping slowly. Renee turned, her curls cascading down her back, her face pale but resolute. "No." Malik's brows arched. "Excuse me?" Her voice shook, but her spine was straight. "There won't be a wedding, Malik. Not tomorrow. Not ever." Renee slipped the diamond ring from her finger, the stone catching one last flash of lightning before she set it gently on the marble counter. Gasps from the storm echoed outside, as if the heavens themselves had heard. Malik stared at the ring, his expression unreadable. Then, slowly, his smirk returned, cold, dangerous. "You're joking," he said, voice low. Renee shook her head. "I was never yours, not truly. You wanted to win a war, Malik. You didn't want a wife, and I will not be your trophy." His glass shattered in his hand, amber liquid splashing across the floor. "You think you can humiliate me? Walk away after I put my empire behind your name?" Her hazel eyes blazed, her voice steady. "I'd rather be free and hated than worshipped and chained." Malik's fists trembled, his jaw tight. For the first time, his charming mask fell completely. "You'll regret this, Renee Carter," he snarled. "You've chosen the wrong side. Roman Sinclair can't protect you. I'll destroy him. And when I'm finished, I'll make sure the world remembers you not as a bride, but as a scandal." Renee's heart pounded, but she refused to flinch. "Do your worst, Malik. I've survived humiliation, gossip, betrayal. I'll survive you too." For a moment, silence stretched, heavy and dangerous. Malik's dark eyes burned into hers before he turned sharply, storming out of the penthouse. The slam of the door echoed like a gunshot. The next day, Renee stood in the quiet Sinclair Gardens. Rain had washed the roses clean, and the air smelled of earth and renewal. Roman appeared, walking slowly toward her, his espresso-brown skin glowing under the soft dawn light. He looked different, calmer, steadier, his dark eyes free of hesitation. "Renee," he said softly, her chest tightened. "Roman." He stepped closer, pulling a small velvet box from his jacket. He opened it to reveal a simple but breathtaking platinum ring. No spotlight, no audience, no spectacle, just them. "I've proposed before and I failed you, but this time there's no altar, no mother, no empire, just you and me. Renee Carter, I love you. Will you marry me?" Tears welled in her hazel eyes. For a moment she couldn't speak, her throat choked with emotion. Then she whispered, "Yes, but on one condition." Roman's brows furrowed. "Anything." She stepped closer, her hand trembling as she touched his face. "Angela Sinclair will never control us. Not our marriage, not our lives, not our future. If you can promise me that, then I'll be your bride." Roman's chest heaved, his dark eyes burned with conviction. "I promise. From this day forward, it's us against the world. No one else." Renee's tears fell freely as he slipped the ring onto her finger, her heart finally unburdened. At that same moment, Angela Sinclair sat in her hospital bed, her once flawless appearance dimmed by exhaustion. The empire she built was gone. The board had stripped her of power. Roman had reclaimed his throne. And now, whispers filled the hospital corridors. She collapsed at the gala. She's finished. Roman doesn't need her anymore. Angela's lips trembled as she stared at the ceiling. For the first time in her life, she was powerless. But even as tears filled her eyes, her voice cracked in a whisper. This isn't over. Later that evening, Renee stood before her mirror, gazing at her reflection. For once, she didn't see a pawn. She didn't see a scandal. She saw a woman who had survived humiliation, betrayal, and the tug-of-war of billionaires. She saw Renee Carter. Imani entered, her golden-brown skin glowing, her eyes filled with pride. So, you finally chose. Renee turned, smiling faintly. I didn't just choose Roman, Imani. I chose me. I chose happiness. I chose to never let anyone use me again. Imani grinned, pulling her sister into a fierce hug. That's the Renee I've been waiting for. But across the city, Malik Harrington poured himself another scotch, his dark eyes glinting with fury. On the desk before him sat photos of Renee and Roman in the Sinclair Gardens, holding hands, her new ring glittering in the light. His smirk was cold. Enjoy it while it lasts, Sinclair. You stole what was mine, and I always take back what's mine. His laughter was low, dangerous. The promise of Season 2 hung in the air like thunder. That night, Renee lay in Roman's arms for the first time without fear. The world outside was still chaos. Angela plotting in her hospital bed, Malik sharpening his knives, but for now she was free. She whispered against Roman's chest, "This time we write our own story." Roman kissed her hair, his voice steady. Together. The camera of fate pulled back, the Sinclair Empire restored, the Harrington Empire vowing revenge, Angela clinging to shadows, and at the very center stood Renee Carter, not a pawn, not a scandal, but a bride-to-be who had claimed her power. The season ended not with her downfall, but with her rise. Here comes the story of this amazing story. If I was able to make your day, comment Mr. Hope you made my day.